Well, folks, it is another day, which means it is time for the news around the National Hockey League. I wanted to do this on Monday, but I could not get to it. We have an absolute mountain of things to talk about, so let's hop right in. We're going to start off with the trades around the National Hockey League today. You start off in Ottawa and New Jersey, where the Senators acquired Curtis McDermott from the New Jersey Devils in exchange for Zach McEwen. This is really not that big of a trade in my eyes. These are two players who are known for fighting, being enforcers, and I think the Senators wanted to get a really rough and tough player there on their roster. McEwen, good fighter, but to be honest with you, isn't really sustainable in the NHL. McDermott can play NHL games, so there you go. Regardless, though, this is a very minor trade. I'm not really taking this that seriously, to be completely honest with you guys. And then on the other side, another trade that happened as well between the San Jose Sharks and the Philadelphia Flyers, where the Sharks acquired Ryan Ellis' contract and a 2026 conditional sixth. In exchange, Philadelphia acquired Carl Grundstrom and Artem Guryev. So this is another small one as well, where you see the Sharks go in there. They get Ellis' contract, which they've done many times before. They get that conditional sixth-round pick there as well, so they do get some assets back in return. And Philadelphia, they free up some cap space. They also come in there. They get Carl Grundstrom and Guryev, two minor league players, to be completely honest with you. They aren't really that big of role players, to be honest. So regardless, I think those are guys who we won't see that much in the NHL, but this is more or less just a cap dump here for the Philadelphia Flyers, and the San Jose Sharks are just kind of helping them out, I guess you could say. But there you go. Those are your trades that happened in this past, I would say, week and a half. I wanted to do this on Monday, but I wasn't able to, so let me know your thoughts down below on these trades. And now we move into the part which is probably going to take the most amount of time. All of the signings that have happened in the past week, including guys like Connor McDavid, Kyle Connor. There's a lot of it. We're going to start off with the Oilers. We're going to get them out of the way because they made three very notable signings to really lock up their core here in Edmonton. They started off by signing Connor McDavid to a 2-year, $12.5 million contract. Yes, you heard that right. 12.5. Unbelievable contract there. Unbelievable deal by the Oilers. And it's good for both sides, too, because McDavid, not only does he get 2 more years to have at it in Edmonton, but also after those 2 years in 2028, he can go out and get his bag. He can go make a ton of money. And by then, the salary cap is going to be up even higher. We heard rumors today that it could project up to $107 million next year. Can you imagine what it's going to be in 2 years after that? McDavid's going to get so much money at that time. Anyway, you look at the Oilers then, they don't really get any cap implications with this. Like, yeah, you're paying McDavid, but he's paying them the same amount of money that he was paid on his previous contract. That is really good for the Oilers, and that gives them a lot, and they really don't have a lot of it to begin with, but it gives them some cap flexibility here to, maybe go out and make a trade deadline move or go out and do this, go out and do that. It gives them options, and that's really good there for Edmonton. And at least, again, they don't really have a lot of options to begin with, but it's better that he gets paid the same than getting paid more. So definitely, I love that deal for the Oilers and Connor McDavid. It was shocking. McDavid should be plastered with a statue in front of the arena, to be honest with you, with the way that he took this contract. It's unbelievable that he's getting paid the same amount of money, especially in this world. And you look at how much money other players are getting. Like, McDavid's contract, even though it is a 2-year deal, it could make some players opt for less. So maybe McDavid just helped out a couple of other teams here. Also in the Edmonton realm, they would go out and they would sign Jake Wallman to a 7-year, $7 million contract on the same day. So I like the Wallman deal. I think that in the last couple of years of that deal, it's going to be pretty not great. But regardless, again, that's the price you have to pay if you're going all in for a Stanley Cup. Let's just hope the Oilers can get that Stanley Cup. And Wallman, I thought last year was pretty good with them when he came over, but 7x7 by the end of that could be a little bit meh, but we'll see what happens there, obviously. And then Matthias Ekholm, that was their next guy on their list. They do have Stuart Skinner to deal with as well, but Matthias Ekholm is the last guy they would lock up just today with a 3-year, $4 million contract extension that begins next season as well. So this is a good one here. He was not the greatest in the playoffs last year for the Oilers, but again, he did come in midway through the year injured off of that injury that he had before the playoffs. So to be honest with you, I don't really look at it from that perspective that much, but I do think that Ekholm's probably been their best defensive defenseman. He's 35 years old. This will take him till he's 39. It looks like the Oilers are really setting themselves up here for like a 3-year window, it seems like. With McDavid and his contract, it really seems like 2026, 2027, and 2028 are going to be the years that Edmonton needs to win the Stanley Cup. After that, you're going to have to be playing these players a lot more money, and most of them are locked up as it is, but the team could take a bit of a curve when we do get to that point. But you never know. It's 3 years from now. A whole pandemic could happen. You never freaking know. So we'll have to see, obviously, there what goes down. But regardless, Ekholm signs there with the Oilers as well. Looking at the other contracts around the NHL, I did want to start off with Edmonton because I think the Oilers are the biggest one that you want to talk about. Kyle Connor re-signed with the Winnipeg Jets this morning on an 8-year, $12 million extension. It's really good they got this done. It's important that you get this guy locked up before the season starts because it's a little bit uncommon to see guys head into their season when it starts unsigned and signed midway through. That's why I have some concerns about Jack Eichel and how much money he could get with the Vegas Golden Knights and the fact that he's not signed yet heading into the year. I don't have that concern anymore for Connor because I think that, again, you go into the regular season, it's hard to negotiate a contract mid-season. The players don't want to think about that. They want to play more, and hopefully them being better in their career year will give them more money later on. So regardless, that's what you're thinking about, but this is a very good contract here for the Winnipeg Jets for sure. As well as that, too, the Minnesota Wild re-signed Philip Gustafsson to a 5-year, $6.8 million contract. That will begin not this year, but next year. So on top of Kaprizov's big contract, which we talked about in the last news of the week, Gustafsson here is getting his deal locked up as well. This is not really a lot of risk. I think it's a good move. You know, you get the short term here. Not really short term, but I think that it's a good deal here for the Wild. I really don't have much to say. Gustafsson was very good last year in the playoffs for Minnesota, and they've lacked playoff goalies who have played well for them in a lot of their years in the past. So this is a good contract. I've seen some people be worried about Jesper Wallstedt. Yes, that is definitely a factor. However, I will say on the contrary to that, this is only a 5-year deal. This will take Gustafsson till he's in his mid-30s. So by then, maybe Wallstedt is ready to be a backup. When this deal expires, he'll be 27. So he will be Gustafsson's age. And he really hasn't proven yet that he is worthy of being a starting goalie. He had a rough year with the Iowa Wild, and he's not like Askarov in a sense where, you know, Saros signed that 8-year deal and he wasn't even going to be playing in the backup role. So there's that. But again, going back to Gustafsson, this was a good contract here as well. Some of the other deals that happened recently, Luke Evangelista, that was a while ago. That was kind of right after I made my news of the week last week. But regardless, Evangelista re-signed to a 2-year, $3 million contract. That was a big holdout for just that much. I was a little bit confused, like you held out for $3 million. But I guess because of the fact that Nashville wasn't really paying him. And I think the big thing here is Evangelista, I think, kind of caved, to be completely blunt with you. It feels like, you know, the Predators didn't really need him that much. And you look at the Predators' wings, they're good on the wings. It's the center depth that they really lack upon. And I think that they were okay with letting him just sit out. So, I don't know. We'll have to see what happens there. But Evangelista gets locked up on that deal. Some of the other ones that did happen recently, we'll go through these kind of quickly because they're not really that big of signings. Giovanni Smith, 1 year, $775K with the Hurricanes. Matt Grzelcyk on a 1-year, $1 million deal with the Chicago Blackhawks. You also have multiple guys here as well, like Alexander Holtz, re-signed for 2 years, $837K. Adam Ernie signed for 1 year, $775K. Connor Sheary signed with the Rangers. Kevin Rooney signed with the Mammoth. You have Luke Glendening signing there with the Devils. And then Noah Gregor signing there with the Florida Panthers as well. Some re-signings, some new signings off of guys who were on PTOs. But overall, pretty good deals all around. Staying in the realm of signings, we have 2 coaching signings that we need to discuss. They happened late last week as well, so I did miss these 2. But regardless, Chris Knoblauch signed a 3-year extension with the Oilers, so another guy who's pretty much locked up there. Like, again, it kind of proves your point even more. The Oilers are setting themselves up here for like a 3-year window to really go and win a Stanley Cup with this core. You have Knoblauch signed for 3 more years after this year. You have McDavid signed for 3 more years. You have Wallman locked up on that deal. You have Ekholm signed for 3 more years after this year. They're really setting themselves up for like a 3 to 4 year window here. So it kind of proves my point even more. And then we heard this as well the same day. John Cooper reportedly, very quietly, signed with the Tampa Bay Lightning. So a good extension there. Cooper, one of the best coaches in the league, has been one of the longest tenure coaches in the league. You always do wonder, and I said this last night in the stream, I said with Bednar, and I'm not saying that either of these guys would get fired, but you do wonder when the day's going to come that they get booted out the door. You never know when it's going to come, so we'll have to see what happens there, obviously. But I'm kind of whistling the waters there and making things interesting, but yeah. Good contracts there all around by the coaches. No problems with that. We'll go through the waiver claims here very quickly over the last week. There's been a couple of them, to be honest with you. So you start off with Damian Hunt, who went from Columbus to Minnesota. A good depth player there. I think, again, you want a lot of depth on your roster. Minnesota definitely does lack a little bit of depth on their bottom 6. I think that getting a guy like Hunt could be a good fit there. Cole Schwinn goes back to the team that drafted him. He was claimed off of waivers by the Panthers from the Golden Knights. Remember, he was involved in the Matthew Tkachuk trade. So Florida basically got their asset back, even though he's not really that big of an asset, to be completely honest with you. Brandon Bussi went from the Florida Panthers to the Carolina Hurricanes. I feel like seeing the Caden Primo one, who we'll discuss here in a second, it kind of thinks they have more confidence in Bussi than they do in a guy like Caden Primo there for sure. As well as that, too, you saw guys like Sammy Blais go on waivers from Montreal. He got claimed by Toronto. I'll explain why that's a little bit important here in a moment. I think that he could and is actually going to make the opening night roster tonight. Caden Primo, again, as I said, going from Carolina to Toronto. Again, as I said, like, they claim Brandon Bussi. It feels like they have more confidence in him than what Caden Primo did. So Primo is now out of Carolina and off to Toronto. And then Colton Ellis has been claimed by the Buffalo Sabres from the St. Louis Blues. Another decent goalie prospect there. St. Louis today did just sign Georgi Romanov, so I did not include that in my signings, but that did happen today here as well. But regardless, you can tell that some of these teams are starting to really get their rosters put together, and even though they're going through injuries, they're still making it work through the waiver claims. We got some injuries to talk about here. We got 2 notable ones involving 2 Canadian teams. The first one, Scott Laughton, is out week to week with an undisclosed injury, and this is a rough departure here for Toronto. This is. Scott Laughton was going to be their 4th-line center. I thought he was going to be somebody who would really kind of not break out this year, but do good on that bottom 6 for Toronto, and losing him to start the year is pretty devastating, to be honest with you, and it does kind of make sense why they claim Sammy Blais. That seems to be what they're going to do here now. They're going to bring up Sammy Blais. He's going to play in that role, and there you go. You got your 13-forward roster or whatever it is. So regardless, I think that Laughton being out definitely really does stink, and I think that Toronto does have the depth to make this happen, but at least as of right now, Laughton is going to be out for at least a couple of weeks here. And then Cole Perfetti for Winnipeg is also going to be out week to week here with an undisclosed injury as well. Perfetti, I thought, was great last year, and we had a lot of optimism talking on the podcast about how he could possibly have a real breakout season, and this is not a good start for him to begin his season. So a rough go of things there for Cole Perfetti. Obviously, of course, I wish everybody the best in returning fully healthy. The last thing that I want to talk about here is the big battle between the Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning during this past preseason. So they played a game on Wednesday and Saturday of this past week. It might have been Tuesday. I'm not 100% sure. It doesn't really matter. But those 2 games combined for some absolute war between these 2 teams. And honestly, a lot of their minor league clubs, too. Like, it wasn't really the big guys that were going out there and fighting. It was a lot of the minor league guys in this club. So, here's the numbers and the stats from the Panthers preseason game between the Lightning in those 2 games. 21 game misconducts, 450 total penalty minutes, 38 total power plays, 5 players left the game injured. I'm not sure about the health of all of them. I think they just, they left the game. Maybe they're okay. I haven't heard anything serious. $7,437 in total fines over those 2 games. $7,000's a lot. Now, for NHL players, like pocket change. Anyway. And then there was 2 suspensions that were included in this as well. So Scott Sabourin was suspended for 4 games due to a interference call on Aaron Ekblad, and then Moser was suspended for a call on Jesper Boquist. So, yeah, those guys are suspended here. They will miss time in the regular season. Sabourin's interesting because Scott Sabourin is like a 13th forward, and he may not play NHL, so that'll carry over probably. But regardless, there's that with the whole thing there with the suspensions. We also saw something pretty crazy, too, during that game. So, again, as I said, there were 21 game misconducts. Nico Mikkola was one of those guys in the second game on Saturday night. It's 7-0 Panthers. Mikkola goes and assists on a goal that makes it 8-0. Then the refs realize, wait a second, why are you still in the game? We gave you a game misconduct. So they remove the goal, and now it's back to 7-0 Florida, and obviously they kick out Mikkola. One of the things that we have really never seen before in hockey, it's kind of crazy to think, but it does really shape up to be a wild preseason battle here between these two teams in 2 games. John Cooper also got fined $25,000. The team got fined $100,000. So, yeah, Tampa definitely took a lot of the beating here with this. But regardless, these 2 teams were battling it out with each other. We know these teams don't like each other. Again, Florida has knocked out Tampa Bay the last couple of years. You go back even further than that. Tampa used to knock out Florida back in 21 and 22. It's wild. It's absolutely wild. These teams always battling it out with each other, and it's always been a very intense rivalry for sure. But regardless, that is your news of the week here for Wednesday, October 8th, 2025. I want to apologize for this not coming out on Monday. I wanted to do this on Monday, but I didn't have the time. I was working with the Reading Royals and their camp, and then I was obviously doing stuff with the Connor McDavid extension, and then by tomorrow, I had my full season predictions video. I could not get to this until today. I apologize, but I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts down below on the news around the NHL this past week, but thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like down below and subscribe if you are new, but regardless, that is it for me. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.